introduce myself. I'm Eric Calder. I'm CTO of CryptoSpace/CryptoMax, an OTC trading desk focusing on the nexus between physical fiat, and crypto in Latin America. I'm also the US licensee for the VAL currency ecosystem and founder of New Ocean, a company that focuses on extracting home equity for Bitcoin purchases. I'm also advisor to a number of different firms and an investor occasionally.
And where can people buy the VOW token?
Right now, they can buy it actually off the ICO, so they'll pay half the market price with a 6-month lockup. But they can also buy it on the open market on HitBTC, SokuSwap, Uniswap, and some other exchanges. I need to catch up with what they've done, but yeah, you can buy or just contact me and I'll arrange for a purchase.
Awesome. And Chris, you're having an auction today.
Yes. Can you hear me?
We
Yeah,
can
we
hear
can
you.
hear you.
Yes. Our first auction went up this morning at 10 o'clock out on Wax. It's a one-on-one auction. And yeah, it's really exciting. The first hour, I don't know what it is now, but in the first hour, we already got 3 bids. And so it went up quite a bit. And yeah, it looks like it's going to be pretty successful. And it's going to be interesting to see, since Wax is really excited about it, because this is their first time where they've got, like a true piece of collectible art that isn't something just done by, the artist and the artist selling it. This is actually a piece from a very famous short story called Days to Come by H.G. Wells. And it was an illustration in the magazine Amazing Stories in 1927. So it's a piece that's kind of known around the world. It's appeared in several museums, the Museum of Science Fiction. It's been released as wallpapers and canvas prints in the past, but this is the first time it will be a one-on-one NFT.
Well, this is really exciting. Can you just tell us a little bit about the actual marketing that went into this live auction? Because I thought it was fascinating. And I think it's very important to kind of see all the options that are available as you decide to do a project like that.
Yeah, this was done a little bit different, since we didn't just submit a piece to Wax, or uh, we've been working with known origins, we've been working with Rareables, we've been working with OpenSea. We've posted. You can't really work with them; they're just kind of a clearinghouse. But this is a real joint effort on the part of Wax and the Sci-Fi Art Anthology through the Crypto Art Agency, which is a company that we formed just to represent the pieces. So it's been a real team effort. We've been working together over the last about 6 weeks, decided on the piece. Then what we did is decided on the marketing approach. They've got a lot of collectors, obviously, in their database, and people that are interested in NFTs as collectible items. We, of course, have a huge sci-fi following through Facebook, through Instagram, and our relationships with a lot of these sci-fi societies. So what we decided to do was kind of divide and conquer. They're going after the collectors, and they've released a couple of press releases. We've released a couple of press releases. We're going out on the social media side, making it aware. We've got a 4 o'clock call with a couple of these science fiction leagues, letting them know about it. So it's been kind of an interesting joint effort between the two of us, and we're hoping doing that's going to make it successful. And something else that we've done that I'm sure it's been done before, but I haven't seen it, is that the winner of the auction will own the NFT, and then through our museum store, they're going to get a 29 by I think 16-inch canvas museum quality framed print. So they won't just get the NFT, but they'll be able to have something they can hang in their office or in their living room and kind of show it off.
That's awesome. Michal, I'm sorry you got interrupted in your wonderful presentation, which really is sort of like how to create a metaverse so that it's it mimics real life, which is something that I'm really fascinated with. Tell us a little bit about your technologies, just sort of high level what it does, in VR AR.
Yes, no worries, Mariana. Everything is fine. I knew that the time is running up, so no worries about that at all. And thank you for the nice words. Actually, indeed, I was trying to hook up the metaverse thing because here, sorry, sorry for my cough. Here the technology indeed is about first of all, you need to understand that there is a manual process at the very beginning, yeah, because there is a database which needs to be a mastered thing, which of course then the neural networks, as you call them, and the machine learning tools need to learn them first of all. So it's all about having the accurate database first, and this is the base for the technology. Then once you have the database, once you can already in a sense access well 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, however let's say exactly you would like it to be, sorry, then you can make sure that the servers for the neural networks, so the ones which are programmed and coded in order to grasp all this information, that they are able to process all the data, and with the algorithms, with the codes which we create in a sense, albeit for the game or albeit for the software, that as I was trying to get the message to the audience today, that it really doesn't matter, yeah, whether this is software or a game, the code and the algorithm is a key, because then based on that you can basically in a sense assign the neural networks which are then transferred to your mobile phone by using our application or our service as a software bunch. And then you can basically, sorry again, map every kind of surface that you want, yeah. So at high level it's about this. So it all starts with the database. It all starts with the neural network based and machine learning created servers, creating in a sense a kind of cloud based solution, or a metaverse in a sense based solution, in which you get all the data, and based on the data which are similar to the data which you can see around you, you can map the surface around you. And of course, if you map the surface around you, then you can grasp whichever room you would like. You can do it in your home, you can do it in the hotel room that you travel into, you can do this in the house of your grandma, and then albeit that the telephone has never seen it, yeah, or another mobile device in the augmented reality. So normally you would need to take a lot of effort to take a lot of time to make it. And whereas with our software or with our game inside the software, you can just take your phone, and basically after a couple of seconds you can enjoy the unspoiled in a sense entertainment or unspoiled work, if you are a worker, if you are working on the software with only your mobile phone without any hardware, yeah. So currently at the moment we know that some of the companies, which of course you can see the metaverse right now everywhere, it's a buzzword, yeah. So you can see Facebook, you can see Google, you can see Apple working on similar in a sense realities, but somehow nobody has ever in a sense let's say made the kind of complex solution for this. And of course we are not talking about going Apple, yeah, or we are not talking about going corporate as Google does or something. We want to build a, let's say, customized or custom based solution for everybody who wants it, yeah. So if you are a gamer, if you are a player, you can play the game. We wanted to create some, first of all, very in a sense efficient zombie surrealistic or post-apocalyptic let's say entertainment, but on the other hand the scenarios can be different. But also you can have it from the perspective of, as I mentioned before, yeah, in the presentation, of the architecture in a sense company, yeah, or the designing company, or the gardener's company, geological, let's say, excavations or something, yeah. You can even do this with the archaeologist, yeah. You can basically, let's say, pull out all the data and make sure that without the access to the expensive additional hardware, you can just map your all around, yeah. And again,
Okay, so
Mars.
Michal, can I
uh,
stop you for a second? Because
sure.
Okay, I really just want to kind of get the narrow definition of this. Basically, you're allowing creation of spatial creation, spatial surfaces
Yes,
in real
yes,
time. That's it, right?
yes, indeed. Yeah,
And
that's it.
with
Exactly,
the mobile phone, right?
exactly. Or the mobile devices like iPad, for example. Yeah.
So if, like, for example, one of the applications in Superworld was to take an NFT and put that NFT on Times Square, um, with their app. In
Mm-hmm.
in essence, you could take the Times Square as you're standing in it that day and map it with your phone
Yes, exactly. That's it. That's about
and
it.
save it, basically, just that whole
Yes,
experience.
and you
That's
can do this
fascinating.
with whatever you want. Yeah, so you can do this also not in the Times Square, in the other place as well. Yeah, indeed.
So with NFTs right now, one of the limitations is that people are saying, well, where should you display these NFTs? Where should you use them?
Yeah.
How should you use them, et cetera, et cetera. um, um,
Well, what do you mean exactly? Because I don't know if I got this. Sorry.
so why would you use this, let's say, for an NFT marketplace? um,
Uh,
in terms of, today you're sort of displaying these things online, and people say, why would you buy an NFT? You could just see it online, and now they have galleries with NFTs. But how would you use your application with an NFT sale so it makes sense?
well, in a sense, to think about this in a blockchain solution or this kind of thing, then I was thinking about, in a sense, creating, uh, well, also like the first presenter actually made it. Yeah. So to tokenize, in a sense, some values which are there. Yeah. So of course, like mobile phones, internet, we all know it. Yeah. Like all those mobile connections, Wi-Fi, and so on. For they are everywhere. Yeah. So. Of course, you can see this online, but on the other hand, you can make a vault of certain technology which is then exchangeable for a token which we have been creating. It's not finished yet, but we have been into this process for a while right now, and we want to create not only a token for exchangeable token for a game itself, yeah, in which you could, for example, buy something for the online currency or something like this, but also on the other hand, we could make it in a sense like you could buy a token which is the technology itself. Yeah, so you could, in a sense, invest in the technology which we think, well, as probably everybody thinks about his or her project, but we really think it's a breakthrough one. Yeah, so of course you can buy an application itself and you can just use it. You can just contact us and get the customized version. That's of course always possible. But on the other hand, however, you can also get a token with us and make an NFT with this. So I don't know if I'm explaining myself well, but this is something which is currently undergoing our investigations. That's why also we joined this let's say series of meetings with Infiom, with you guys, to make sure that we let's say are going in the right way, yeah, in this, because well we want to exchange it for this, if it makes sense what I'm saying.
Well, yeah. So, how you integrate the token into your economy is very important. If your application allows you for real time, capture of
Yeah,
the environment that you're in, which is so important right now in creating any metaverse, right? Because
indeed, of
it's
course.
it's it's mixed reality. So then the question is, why would you want to have a token with that particular application? What is it specific that token economy would provide to someone to maintain, build, develop that application, use it, etc.? So that's the
uh,
question. You have to think through, and it's a process. You go through thinking, okay, do I need a token and why?
well, yeah, as I mentioned before, yeah, this is something which we have been sort of thinking about before as well, and this is an ongoing process. We, to be honest with you, when we started this project, we have not even thought about this. Yeah, so we were like, well, okay, this is standard, let's say, software or the coding slash IT related stuff, AR, VR, very fashionable, pandemic times, going forward and so on and so forth. But then we thought about, okay, but listen, actually at the moment everything is vaulted, everything is captured in a sense of a value vault, yeah. And this could be a value vault not only for the investors but also for the users. Yeah, you could exchange token for a certain service, you could exchange a token for additional support from our side, because we were thinking, as I mentioned before, we are not going to create another Unity Mars or Unity Mars with ARKit or whatever, because first of all, they are not our type of technology. Second to that, of course, we are not yet of their size and budget. But on the other hand, customized solution. So you could exchange then the vault that you have created and collected yourself for a kind of dedicated support which you can get, yeah, which is only then available for the token, let's say token owners, right? And so on and so forth. You could also invest in the company and in the project itself, yeah, for the fundraising and then for the IPOs, for the technology markets. Like, this is all an open project, but indeed we are also thinking right now, because it matches up with the metaverse a lot. But this term metaverse we have just been discussing only like early since like couple of weeks, yeah. So so this is all undergoing the process. I just wanted to also show to everybody that who is interested or who would be interested with networking with us, with contacting me directly, yeah, on this, then of course we could exchange some ideas. If somebody is more or way more actually experienced in this kind of things, then of course I would also welcome this very much. But yeah, definitely, especially hearing also the other presentations, especially after reading so much about this, we would like to go that way. The exact, in the sense, direction is not yet known that much, to be honest.
Yeah, I think one of the main things that you have to think through in your business model is that you have this technology and it's breakthrough and it's relevant for the market right now. But then you have to tell yourself, do I want to be just a software sort of service provider? Then you don't need a token, right? Because it's
Yeah,
really B2B. Or do I want to be a games company, or do I want to be living well, like Superworld is? It's providing a platform for companies that are physical and digital to kind of live well in mixed reality, and allowing people to do all sorts of enterprises and projects in that mixed reality. Is that something you want to build? Do you want to build a game, or do you want to be sort of software as a service company, which you mentioned? So these are all the different options, and for
sure,
some you do need a token and for others you don't.
sure,
Hi,
sure,
Jeanette.
sure.
Jeanette, you want to introduce yourself?
I am Jeanette Tipati, and I am a professional text-plainer, and I have been writing and speaking about the blockchain for about 7 years now.
Awesome. And so, Michal, I think maybe Eric, you have some comments to Michal, and when he should consider a token and not consider a token.
Yeah, I think that there's it's a much broader conversation, the issue of token economics, right? In general, I'm in favor of always having a token.
Hmm.
There are certain sort of implicit values to having your own token, but on the other hand, there are better ways to use the token and less efficient ways. So the devil is always in the details. What exactly is your workflow? Um, what does your audience look like, and all of this kind of stuff. So, but it's a conversation that I'm happy to enter. You can find me, by the way, on Twitter as Ekis or on Telegram as Ekis. So just feel free to reach out.
Yeah, I will do for sure. Yeah, as I mentioned before, it's really something which we would love to decide on. We are not decided yet. However, we just wanted, let's share the project, because I'm a huge fan of networking. So I will definitely reach out to you and anybody else who could, let's say anything about this, or be interested in, let's say, cooperation or any kind of other interaction. So So, well, that's in a sense a nutshell. But again, as I mentioned before, I didn't want to also in the presentation itself, like let's say, bore you to death with all those details of the technology, which of course, at a high level, I could explain, but in the details, like much more than it's for everybody to decide. But we have a lot, let's say, done in this respect. We have been thinking about this project for, at the moment, for a couple of months at least. Um, and as you can see, it's a big one. Also, the metaverse is, like popping up all the time that we are, let's say, talking about this with all the other people, investors or the partners. So, well, yeah, that's the nutshell of this.
Yeah, so what's really interesting right now is, and Frank has purchased a bunch of virtual land in Superworld. That's very exciting kind of virtual land. But there was an article we published in our newsletter. We send a newsletter every week on Sunday. You can subscribe to it by clicking on the link up there for the
I will.
Infiom.com. And yeah, so there's there was a virtual land adjacent to Snoop Dogg's Sandbox estate that sold for $450,000 in Ethereum, in ETH, basically. And so it's really fascinating. It isn't like, Frank purchased large stadiums in Europe, and places where, tennis is played, Grand Slams, etc. And this is not Snoop Dogg's estate. This is next door to Snoop Dogg's. It's like a complete reorganization of geography and branding as we know it, and it's, kind of creating this tremendous value of virtual real estate. And I believe that with what you have, Michal, with your
Mhm.
technology, you may want to consider entering that space of virtual real estate, just kind of figuring out what people miss in real world and what they need to have, in virtual world, and how you can help them capture it quickly.
Sure. Yeah, that's actually, a lot of ideas, especially like this is a very great idea, Mariana. So thank you for this. I will for sure also direct message Ekis on Telegram. Maybe I'm not that much a user of Twitter myself. I need to change that, but Telegram for sure still. So I mean, yeah, indeed, a lot of ideas have been coming up, and those ideas, some of them which I couldn't even think about like 6 months ago, right now are turning into those thousands and millions. Yeah, so as you mentioned, well, virtual real estate is for sure something to consider as well. We have been thinking about tokenization as an investment or as a value of the company, but the discussion is still open. But of course, the idea is very nice.
Frank,
Hello,
we can't
Michelle.
hear you.
Oh, can you hear me? Okay, yeah. So
Yes.
what I was gonna say is that no, what I've realized, especially in this space, so in the short time I've been in it, is that what we're playing with literally is an open space. Uh, think like Dubai in like 1982 when it was just desert, and where it is now. So what we're looking at doing is what is it you can bring to the land that will be there in the next 10 years when we have the glasses and everything, and how can it better the real world, people's real world. So for example, if your technology allows for generative landscapes, so when you're walking and it's generating the land where you are around you, how, how can you involve advertising, commerce, uh, people's hobbies, people's passions within what you do? How do you cross over from what you do to what people want to do and what people are passionate about? And once you actually are able to bridge that gap, then that's when you can get people en masse to buy into what it is that you have, so that the technical aspects don't kind of overcome their experiences. So that's why I'm so passionate about Superworld, because it's more or less an empty space where I'm able to build either AR, VR experiences, and then also attached with the potential of advertising and also incorporating people's passions in the real world.
I'm totally there with you, Frank, in terms of having a long perspective and the idea of looking at building, right? But I think that one interesting point is that the world is spinning so quickly now that it's the 10 years is like an eternity. Um, you know, we can hardly see around the curve, around the bend, because there's so many people innovating, and the some initial technology gets quickly superseded by some slight improvements and other set of slight improvements, and then by a complete new revolution. So it makes it really, really difficult to predict what you need to build, right? We have, in my view, at best a maybe 6 month horizon, because and I say that given the fact that during the long crypto winter we were all building, and that was maybe a almost 3 year period. But now we're all at that point where we're going live, and we're starting to roll out the stuff that we were building, and that is creating even that's creating a further acceleration in the change. So good thoughts there, but I think that 10 years is a really, really, really long scale in our scheme of things.
Eric, to add to that, I would also say that the loot model and the creation of communities where community members are altering and even wholesale creating content is further accelerating this process.
And I couldn't agree with you more that that's actually the future. I mean, if you want to look at a 10-year period, community is an abstract enough concept that we can think about the large transition between corporation and community, right? So we've organized ourselves around the concept of corporations that now become DAOs, which are really communities, right? So I think you're right on point with that, and we need to be thinking about building more DAOs and more governance systems that fit the necessities of very specific communities and sub-communities.
I think
But
another.
actually, the
Oh, go ahead.
great idea from the side of all of you, and also Frank, appreciate very much this kind of idea that indeed I was thinking about the same. Yeah, so how to not allow those technicalities to, as you mentioned, to override or overcome the real experience. Yeah, and indeed, what you are saying is like 100% right to me.
I think what kind of makes me think this way is um, like obviously my family, there's a lot of youngsters growing up who they think completely different, and what they do and what they like is way ahead of what I'm thinking. So they are more interested in how they can interact in that world now. So I'm learning about what they want to interact with. So if you're able to get into the minds of the young people and see what it is that they're doing now, because one of the things I've realized as well is that a lot of the games that are out there now are starting to have this free model where you don't actually pay for the game anymore. You can actually download it for free, and they actually are making the money off of the selling of different items in the game. So they're not actually buying the actual physical game anymore. So I think Eric is correct and Janet is correct. The way that things are changing is very, very quick. But I think if you look at what the youngsters are looking at, you can actually see where things are going early. That's what I've kind of realized.
There's another
Definitely.
approach to this, Frank, too, and I think you're exactly right. We need to be looking at the way that the younger generations think. But the opposite, the obverse of that coin is that we can just look at what currently exists and presume that it is legacy and that it needs to be revolutionized, right? So that means that when I hear the word advertising, for example, I think, oh, that's the old way of doing things. Advertising doesn't work anymore. It needs to die. But the question is what takes its place, right? And to some extent, the answer is what was the initial intention of advertising? What function did it serve? And how can we serve that function in the new world where we have new superpowers?
A quick one is exactly what you're saying. I saw just before this call is that Microsoft had did an advert for a video game called Halo Infinite during an actual football game, and it was in augmented reality where a spaceship flew over the stadium, beamed down something, and then the logo came out, and then the spaceship then flew into the distance, and that was the advert. So exactly what you're saying, I do agree. And any platform that's able to um, have this within it, this type of advertising, probably like what you're saying is the old way, literally evolving to something different.
Yeah, I mean, I even just hear, the word Microsoft, and I think fossil, I think dinosaur. And that's like something that I totally don't want to have anything to do with. I want to have something to do with someone I never heard from, right? Because they're probably small, they're agile, they're hungry, and they've got their finger on the pulse. And I know Microsoft for having worked with them for a couple of decades, that they're just fossilized. They want to innovate, but they're so large that they can't. So
I have to
so
agree. So many of these companies are a victim of their own success, right? Because they used to be agile. All of these companies were agile once when they were small and new. But once they get to a certain level and size, it's almost impossible for them to innovate because their structures just aren't built that way.
And so, interestingly enough, we are trying to onboard those kinds of companies into our space. That's one of the missions that we have at Infiom. And the partnerships are still taking a long time, for my taste. For example, with Earn TV, we spent, I would say, 9 months with Orange Telecom to structure the deal. And it's a very exciting deal, in 26 countries around the globe, distributing through their OTT platform, et cetera, and promoting us on it. But it took about 9 months. 9 months in crypto space is like 9 years in all other space.
yeah, I've been asked to consult on the crypto strategy for US Bank, and US Bank is known to be one of the more sort of progressive banks, right? But they're still a very large bank. But I mean, I have to laugh because it's, of course, I'll consult for them, I'll take their money, right? But honestly, it's like looking up a mountain, right? How do you move this huge behemoth? And the answer is you don't. I mean, you just sort of let them erode, as all of the little guys are doing stuff that run circles around them. And there's not much that you can. I mean, there's not much advice that you can give them because they just can't move. So this is the key is to look at what exists and to simply presume that whatever it is, it's gone. And then your job is to figure out how to do it better.
And it's interesting because when we looked at the data, launching Infium in 2019, we looked at the data about Fortune 500s, and it said over 50% of the companies on Fortune 500 list are going to be off that list in 10 years. It seemed almost impossible at that time, looking at that data. It seems kind of counterintuitive that 50% of all of these really large global conglomerates are not going to be on that list within 10 years. And now it seems not only possible, but you can like see it happening in front of your eyes.
Yeah, no, definitely. Geoffrey West, the Scottish physicist, he talks about, well, he has this great talk about the lifespans of cities, and he contrasts them with the lifespans of corporations, and he points out the fact that back in the sort of early 1900s, and even probably up to the mid 1900s, the average lifespan of a corporation, and now it's like 20 at best, and it's quickly shrinking, right? So the idea that we're going to deal with large corporations is really a foregone conclusion. Everyone some solution or is capable of understanding a problem in the world and formulating a solution will probably not even create corporations anymore. They'll create DAOs, and those things will have their own communities, and they'll be very, very fluid, right? They'll just disappear as a function of technology moving or people moving on to other stuff.
Like the rise and fall of the Amazon empire and the rise and fall of the Apple empire.
Tesla, yeah, all of these companies, short-lived.
I really think that exactly what you're saying. I agree with all of what you're saying. That we're in a landscape now where we don't even know what's going to happen tomorrow. So it's true. Somebody can tomorrow create the one of the most captivating augmented reality NFT series that ends up on all of the major brands, and then he then creates a platform which then allows all these other big names to come on board. So it's possible, because and I think this is something about the space that I love, that it's so open to interpretation, that the big players don't really have as much control over what the individual creator can do. And it literally opens up the doors to any kind of opportunities, especially with the cost of entry, the barrier to entry being very low in the space.
Yeah, there's a great article, and anyone who cares to read it can reach out to me. I'll send out a link, but it basically talks about the rate of change in society as accelerating. So the one of the points that the article makes is that the last 10 years are going to look very different from the next 10 years, because in the next 10 years we're going to absorb uh, so much larger a set of changes than we did in the previous 10 years, that it doesn't even compare to, like, for example, the amount of change that my father saw in his lifetime versus his father, right? Things almost didn't change at all in his father's lifetime. In his lifetime, he saw airplanes, and he saw telephones, and he saw all these things. And in my own lifetime, I've seen this really incredible amount of change, right? And like, everyone's got a cell phone today, and everyone's got Facebook and all of these kinds of things. We've got Bitcoin now. But in the next 10 years, we're going to absorb literally a century's worth of change, from a historical perspective. And so how we deal with that, the kinds of mechanisms that we need to be creating in order to manage that much change, is to a large extent something that us as technology leaders need to be thinking about, right? And that means DAOs and communities and things of that sort.
I'm exactly. And what I because I wear glasses, and I've worn glasses since I was about 5 years old, so I don't know what it's like not wear glasses. So it's never been cool wearing glasses as a child, but growing up, it became more cool. So now what I would like, and what would better my life, is to be able to wear glasses and see the world the way I want to see it. I want to be able to plug into the world the way I want to see it. DeFi. I want to be able to see the layers of the world that are suited to me. So the advancement of the technology, the next unicorns, I believe, in the space are going to be the ones that can bridge the gap between the usage of the actual new hardware and the glasses, the contact lenses, the headsets. But then if you take them off, how are you able to also interact with those worlds? Whoever's able to bridge both of those and also better my real life, those are in my opinion, the next unicorns.
And those are and this is actually, Frank, what and also Eric, the way that we would like to take, yeah, because at the moment, everybody, like, we have also, like, from our let's say wireless game studios perspective, we have already met kind of an approach which was quite unfavorable to us, to be honest with you. But those, like, bigger investors, or those bigger parties, they were saying, yeah, guys, we are skeptical because, with your budget, with your size, it's not really that relevant for you. I mean, it's a huge project and it's breakthrough, of course, and you have a nice technology, you have nice people, you have professors working for you, and you have the scientific universities and so on. But guys like Unity, they have billions of budget, and on the other hand, well, from one perspective, I do understand it, but it also aligns to what you, Eric, and Jeanette, and Frank also has, what you all have told already, yeah, like a couple of times during this conversation. So those organizations, yeah, if I look at the Unity Mars, for example, and if my programmers from the game studio look at the way that they do right now, also they have advertised, yeah, so what Eric said, also advertised very fiercely the new AR kit. But what is the AR kit of Unity Mars? Well, trust me, it's nothing out of the bolt. Yeah, it's nothing out of the world. It's just an AR kit which gives you some, really, like a coder or like a programmer to develop a video game, equips you with some tools which are okay, which are in a sense fine for you and me to use, but they are not breakthrough. Yeah, so they will never allow anybody to experience the world like they would like to. Yeah, so they would never allow Frank, for example, to see the world like as if he was seeing the world without the glasses. Yeah, we would like to go that way. Maybe that was not that much strengthened in the presentation before, but definitely this is something which we would like to go for. And the reason why Unity will never go that way is that currently, sorry, with the current modern situation, what brings them the most revenue, so what they get the most subscriptions out of, yeah, so the current state of the case is the one that satisfies them. Yeah, and before they move ahead, well, we can be there, or another party can be there. Yeah, but it all aligns. It all lines up. Yeah, actually, to what we have all been saying today.
I
So
think too, if you
I have a question for you guys. Does anyone here worry about the fact that what we're doing is we're building the matrix?
you mean that we're going to make the same mistakes we made with the web?
No, not at all. I mean the
Oh,
matrix as in the movie. Like
oh,
what we're slowly marching towards is an immersive situation, right? We all want to redefine the world, and the best way to redefine the world is in software. But then the question is, how do we integrate human beings into the software in a fully immersive experience? And that really essentially is the matrix, right? And
yeah.
is that what we really want?
I'm not as worried about that from a physical standpoint. I am worried about it from an ideological standpoint because I think we've seen over the past decade the segregation into intellectual bubbles to the point where people already have completely different realities in terms of how they interpret the world around them. So I'm a lot more worried about those kinds of ideological and philosophical divides than I am about people spending too much time in their visors, if that makes sense.
I think what Jeanette's saying, you put on these glasses that Mihail's company develops, and everything you see is Fox News. That would be a dystopia right
That's
there.
what I'm saying without saying it, yes.
That would be this, indeed, indeed. But yeah, Matrix is a kind of, especially with the new movie that's going on right now. it's a very nice comparison. I would say. Yeah. So the Skynet metrics, those kind of things. Indeed, sometimes when we have fun, then we used to joke about this, but it's actually redefining the reality indeed.
But
But
that,
we've, I mean, but this concept that we would have different perspectives on the world is very old. I mean, if you think about, was it Socrates that talked about the cave and the people inside the cave looking at the shadows,
Plato,
thinking that that was
Plato,
the world?
Plato. That was Plato.
Plato, right?
Yep, the
Thank you.
cave.
Yeah.
Right, the Plato's cave, right? So, to a large extent, and I mean, in the the equivalent concept was called Maya in the Vedic knowledge, right? The 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 fact is that even as we look at the world today, we're not actually seeing what it is. But once you create a matrix type of construct, then you can actually see exactly what it is because you're actually designing it, right? And to a large extent, that's what we're marching towards. But we want to, I mean, all of this gaming stuff and all this metaverse thing that they're talking about, um, definitions of exist systems that serve humanity in various ways, in a much more automated way that ultimately really needs complete immersion, right? Like you can't have complete immersion without all of the construction blocks that we're putting together right now. And so that's kind of my worry, is that when I look at Matrix, I think that's not actually an optimization. It's it's a direction that we probably don't want to go in.
Well, I think it also depends on how cruddy the real world gets. You know, the, we're hoping that the younger generation is going to make steps to make the real world better. But if they are not successful, then these alternative worlds may be the only palatable place to be.
so interestingly enough, along those lines of thinking, I had a mentor early in my career when I was still working for Peter Guber for Mandalay. He brought Nancy Nyman to start a book publishing division of Mandalay, and it was kind of a joint venture with Sony's management itself. And she ran Warner Books before that, and she had a long career in both publishing and editing of top tier biographies, and she got to talk to all of the science fiction greats that Chris was mentioning earlier, Gene Roddenberry, Isaac Asimov, and all of these guys. And then she got to talk to many Nobel laureates who wrote books about, getting to win that Nobel Prize, and how they came up upon their research. And when she asked the Nobel laureates how did they come up with this research about this wonderful new thing that is world changing invention, they would say, oh, we read about it in sci-fi books. And then she would ask the sci-fi writers, how did they come up with it? And they would say they had these visions of the future, kind of like what Eric was talking about, the Matrix, that's one vision of the future. But I'm sure that as Mihal and, and Rish and all these guys building these metaverses, as they look at the visions of the future, there are different visions that they may see based on what they read in sci-fi and or some other ways of kind of informing themselves. So I feel like there's going to be a lot of different worlds built based on in the sort of the eye of the beholder. There won't be just like one type of the AR VR experience we're heading towards.
That's an interesting thought. I'm actually reading a book called "Recapture the Rapture" by Whelan something James Whelan, and one of the one of the thoughts that he posits is that we've been looking at SETI, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. We've been looking at noise from the universe, looking for other civilizations, right? And it's really quite surprising that given the amount of sound that we've been able to listen to, analyzing for patterns and all this stuff, that we have to date not found anything like any kind of transmission that says, oh, there's somebody else in this universe. and that given the number of stars and number of planets out there, that there really should be someone out there transmitting something, right? And one of the thoughts that the book proposes is that perhaps as civilizations grow in sophistication, the answer isn't to go to other planets, but rather to create metaverses, right? So, in other words, they just live in their tiny little planet, and they do evolution of consciousness by designing and redesigning their own realities in a metaverse. In essence, remaining isolated, and that's the reason why we can't hear from them, right? And it's an interesting thought. I don't know, and it doesn't make the case necessarily for
It's,
us to build a metaverse, but
yeah, it's an interesting thought, Eric, although Carl Sagan would have a probably a simpler solution, which is the universe is huge. So
yes.
it's just very, very big.
Well, also, this whole Eastern philosophy, if you go down this line of thought that, we're building these metaverses versus, discovering new worlds in essence, we're discovering these new worlds, but they're not outside of us, they're inside of us, right? And this is what, the sandbox or the super world or, any of these metaverses that have been built, they're sort of a reflection of the person and the team that's built them. And if you talk to Rich, he would say he built a world that's a better place for everyone. And almost everything he does has to do with trying to create a better world. And so we will see a lot of different metaverses, I think, from inside.
That's what I was thinking about as well. Yeah. So there is metaverse, which is in a sense, if you go to the definition by Wikipedia or whatever else, then or lexicons, you will see that this is a hypothetical, let's say, iteration of the reality, right? So we can see, well, not to take a distant way, but we can see Facebook going meta in a sense, right? So I'm pretty sure what I can bet on is that they will be going into this kind of interactions between the users and the usernames, passwords, logins, whatever they have, the personal data and so on. But on the other hand, indeed, our company or the companies which are like next to us, other spatial, let's say, IOs and those kind of things, they can also redefine and imagine the reality themselves. Yeah. So also this brings us to the topic which is important for us and maybe also for the others, that even if we do something like we or the other company working in the metaverse AR/VR, then it doesn't mean that it's something repeatable. Yeah, because the another person can get back to his her own experience, his her own mind inside, and then get to us with something totally unbelievable. Yeah, which would be like in a sense different as well. So that's I would say the ocean of possibilities. Yeah, here.
Yeah,
I think another building block that I'm seeing along those lines is, in the work that I'm doing with the Consumer Electronics Show, there are more and more health and wellness tools that are designed to increase mindfulness and sort of mind body training. And I think that may also, to Mariana's point about the metaverse within, that may become a building block of that direction as well.
Yeah, we're really, I think, just tapping into that potential, into this whole mind body connection, which has been developing quite fast as well in the last couple of decades and manifesting in some of these new technologies at CES. I think we discovered some of these frequency machines at CES, what, 2, 3 years ago. So this has been sort of building.
Yeah, and the newest ones integrate VR, so it allows you to have a visualization of the state change in your body. So it's a really interesting sort of new twist on it.
I love it. I think we're going to see more and more of this. We're going to see different formats of healing using these new technologies. And yet, at the same time, will allow people to get into meditative states. And metaverse is a bit of a meditative state.
I think that's totally true.
Definitely. I mean,
Yes, I would. Yeah.
I have an Oculus Quest, and there is an app. There is actually an app on there which when you put the headset on, it takes you on a journey, and you're seeing all of these different lights, and it's basically you have to look at a certain light to, you have to look at the stars, and then it takes you somewhere else.
Are you talking
And
about Trip, Frank?
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Oh, I love
J-
Trip.
and I love
That's
it.
I love it as well.
that's
Very, very, very
what's her
good.
name? Nanea. She's a good friend of mine.
Yes, and
It's an awesome experience.
very much so. And I really do, especially with audio and spatial audio, and augmented reality. You can turn any plot of land or anywhere that you've purchased on any metaverse land, if it's truly going towards the real definition of the metaverse, meaning it's interoperable, no matter which metaverse you're in, no matter which platform, then you can actually build those type of experiences on the real world and actually have your real space, a meditative environment where you have games, mini games, where you are that are healing for you, in as many of the layers that you actually have on that space. So it's I really love that. I love that, especially because I think that Trip app, it kind of opens the door to that area of things, because there's so many people at home because of COVID-19, and it takes for that, just that actual software on Oculus Quest, kind of, that can really help a lot of people, especially if it's in their real world, in the metaverse, how they want it to be.
Yeah, we had Nanette presenting last year. Eric invited her to present at the Virtual Infiom Salon, I think at the beginning of 2020. And since then, she's raised another big round of capital, and rightly so. I have to unfortunately end this session. We just, we usually try to keep them to an hour for our presenters and for our audience. I thank all of you. This was a just really fun discussion for me today. Make sure you join us next week. Jeanette manages the 10 a.m. discussion on Tuesdays, which is about asking any questions from her and the panel about NFTs, DeFi and DAOs, and Metaverse, I guess. And then on Wednesday, we do this same session at 1:30 p.m., Create Unicorns with NFTs, DeFis, and DAOs. We publish a newsletter. You can sign up for the newsletter if you hit the website link on top. And we also have virtual Infiom salons. We have one on the 22nd of December. Again, you can find it on our website. So thank you so much for joining us. And thank you, all the presenters. It was really a fun discussion.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
It was
It was a
brilliant.
great
See
Thank you very
trip.
much
everyone.
for
Thank
having
you.
us.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you, and speak to you soon. Bye. Thank you very much
Bye.
once again.